And welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View. We are on a roll. We're on 19,919. I was trying to get to the big 20,000 before the game in December. It looks like we might get it tomorrow evening with the lives that we've got planned over the next 24 hours, next 48 hours. We do have a few lined up, just to say the least. Thank you. First of all, thank you to every single one who's making an old geezer's dream come true. Yes, we're hitting the 20,000, which is absolutely brilliant. To think about where the channel was just a few years ago, back in 2019 even, when I was still going to games, and I kind of started doing a little bit more YouTube. Never thought I'd see myself sitting behind a screen and talking to people, doing a podcast about Celtic, that's for sure, when I was going to games then. But then what happened during 2020 and everything, it is all history. The channel's changed quite a bit over the last few years, and long may it continue. Right, let's get into the Celtic news this morning. There's lots to talk about this morning. I'm just going to make sure that the volume is all about Celtic, that's for sure, when I was going to games then. Good morning, but then what happened during 2020 and everything, it is all. Good morning to everyone who is in the chat this morning. Quite a lot of people in the chat, loads of folk actually in the chat this morning, which is all good. Right, this morning I want to talk about James Forrest, John McGinn, Arnie Engels, and that noise when the MC goes, make some noise for the boys. Anyway, that's all coming up in this morning's video. James Forrest, I never really spoke about, we never gave much time to it, because James Forrest was announced with his extension deal on the Saturday morning before the game. It's another year for James Forrest, and this year you will all admit, if we win the treble, it will make James Forrest the most decorated player of all time. Hot on the heels of Alistair Johnston's quick deal, and it's a shame that Greg Taylor didn't agree to sign the deal at the same time, because I think Celtic were trying to do it in threes. They're trying to send out a subliminal message to us all. They were wanting to do it in the power of three. There is a thing as the power of three, and it would have sent a subliminal message that Celtic are going for a treble and getting the players. Joseph says, don't waste your time on McGinn, he doesn't play for us, but he's been talking about Celtic, and he's been talking about never say never about coming back to Celtic. So Joseph, we will give him the time of day. Plus I think he's just trying to noise us up before he plays us. Anyway, Jamesy Forrest is a player that will become 35 years old when he hangs up his boots at the end of this new extension to the contract that he's got. And there's no one that deserves it more. The one club man, James Forrest experience is only one honour away from equaling Bobby Lennox's tally of 25 trophies at Celtic. When he wins, I am that positive, when he wins the Premier Sports Cup on the 15th of December, he'll equal the legend that is Bobby Lennox. I can remember my dad's been really pally with Bobby Lennox in the 80s. Due to the Butlins connection back in those days with Celtic. And I can remember being in Bobby Lennox pub, and I'm sure I was in his house, and I had no idea that he was a Lisbon Lion. No idea. He was just my dad's mate, and it was just like 2 or 3 years after that, when I was kind of grown up a bit, and I was like, Bobby Lennox, that I was in his house. What? Why did you know that? What the fuck? Anyway, and the fact that Jamesy Forrest is on the verge of grasping that 25th trophy to equal Bobby Lennox is an absolutely fantastic. The chance of extending his lead in front of Bobby Lennox, and it would be it's one of those things that you would never have thought of. When Jamesy Forrest came through the ranks at Celtic, he was a wee toe rag, and there's a story that I can't tell on air, but there was one of the supporters from the Joseph Rafferty Celtic Supporters Club had a little insight into Jamesy Forrest's life when they were on holiday and she bumped into him on holiday. That's all I'm saying. Nothing happened. Nothing untoward happened. It was quite funny. But yeah, Jamesy Forrest was just a lad, and he was a lad being a lad. The fact that he's going to turn 35 when he finishes his contract at Celtic, it's just something that no one really thought about. And I think that Jamesy Forrest deserves. People say that he's past it and all the rest of it, and I'm not for one. For one, I think that the experience that James Forrest brings to the dressing room, he's been there and done it. He's seen it all. He's seen some fantastic players come to Celtic. He's seen some woeful players come to Celtic. How many players has he seen on the wing over the years that have came in and to try and steal his position? And here he is, still a valued member at Celtic, still getting game time, and still an important member of the squad. Whether you like it or not, Jamesy Forrest is a living legend. And for me, it's a nod of the hat to be Jamesy. And it is only fair that this wee living legend lifts the trophy with Callum. And, oh man, when we do it on the 15th of December, it should be wee Jamesy that's up there, I think. Anyway, that's enough about wee Jamesy Forrest. I'm going to speak briefly about a Celtic player that Brendan Rodgers tried to buy back in 2018. We all know how that worked out for John McGinn. John McGinn, who was born on the 18th of October 1994. That's just days after my birthday. And I could tell you one thing, in 1994, John McGinn... What a year that was. Put it this way, I went to Ibiza in 95. Ibiza 95 was my rehab, let's say. Yeah, I went to Ibiza in 95 for the summer in 1995. Spent good 3 and a bit months in Ibiza, and never touched a thing after that. It was great. It was great. It was a time in my life that I'll never forget. 94 was a blank. A complete blank. What a time to be alive that was. Anyway, John McGinn has been talking to Premier Sports, and he's been talking about the fact that the stories of him joining Celtic over the years have grown arm and legs, and it really winds him up. But he says, never say never about joining Celtic. The fact that he's 30-year-old, is John McGinn past it? He's not past it. He's an important player for Scotland, and he's an important player for Aston Villa. But the fact that Celtic could have had him for around about £3 million, or whatever it was they paid for him. I mean, Celtic were just short. And Aston Villa now value him at around about 30 million. There's not a chance, even though the fact that he's only got 2 years left on his contract. Would he wind down that contract? I mean, would you accept a John McGinn at 32-year-old? No. We've been there and done that. We've been there and done that with James McCarthy. And I think James McCarthy shown us that don't go for players that had a love bomb with Celtic when they were younger and we never went for them. Don't go back for them, because it didn't work out with James McCarthy for whatever reason. And I think that when McGinn at 31, 32, I mean, he's still going to have a couple of years at him, but I don't want McGinn to come up here and just see out his career. I don't want him to be one of those players. And I can understand the player coming out and saying in public, look, never say never. If Celtic were to come in for me tomorrow, I would jump at the opportunity. But the realistic thing is Aston Villa rate him at 30 million. Celtic are never ever spending 30 million on McGinn unless McGinn runs down his contract and leaves for free to then come to Celtic. Would you accept him then? There we go. There's one for the poll this morning. Start a poll. Oops. There we go. Would you take John McGinn on a free in 2 years' time? Is the question for the poll this morning. Because it will be 2 years' time that he can walk away from Aston Villa for nothing. Michael is winding Baz up to it. I've no idea. I'm not even reading the comments. So, emphatic no is the first couple of votes that's coming in. We'll see how this one plays out. There's a couple of hundred folk online at the moment. So we'll see how this one works out for us. 133 on. Everyone wouldn't take John McGinn. I think the Scotland connection is just a step too far. But with Celtic in need, and the only reason I'm asking this, with Celtic in dire need of Scottish players, especially if Greg Taylor leaves the club, could there be an option for a Scottish player to come into Celtic? And would John McGinn be that player, even in 2 years' time? Anyway, no McGinn would not integrate with the younger players that we have. Interesting that you say that, John. One of Baz, I'd take McGinn on a free if he signs a 3-year deal. But it would be in 2 years' time. It wouldn't be now. His contract with Aston Villa runs out in 2 years' time. So it would be 2 years down the line. He would be 32 years old. I wouldn't take him at 32 years old. Sorry, I wouldn't. We've been there and done that. And I don't think that... But then again... in a couple of years' time, we're going to need experienced players. And I wonder if Brendan Rodgers, because we're on about bringing back Kieran Tierney. There's all the chat about bringing back Kieran Tierney. And what's he's about to be 27, 28 by now. 27 anyway. So it's just a wonder. It is just a wonder. And we will need a bit more experienced players, because it could be a very youthful team. I'm a day late with my membership run, it said Scotty Boy. Well, you just need to renew it again, Scotty Boy. Baz, I was mixed up last night, buzzing about the members increase. Thanks to Ian and Stephen. I kept saying the game's tomorrow. Yeah, no, the game's not tomorrow. It is tomorrow now, because it's not today. Anyway, that's enough about John McGinn and Aston Villa. Player who refuses to give up on his dream. When I was younger, John McGinn says, all I ever dreamed about was playing for Celtic. I didn't ever see myself playing for Aston Villa. But I've got 2.5 years left. It's 2.5 years, but that's even longer then. I know that'll be this season, and then 2 seasons after that. So it's still 2 years away, but I wouldn't take him. Whether that sees me off, I've still got something left in the tank. We'll never know. You never know. Well, you never know, but I don't think that Celtic will come knocking on your door when you're 32 years old. Anyway, there is a player at Celtic that wants to become the next Nico Kuhn. Yes, he wants to show what he's really made of. And he wants to copy Nico Kuhn with his rise to the front of Celtic and the domination. Is it domination? The domination of the headlines, anyway. The domination of the headlines and the one to watch this summer. Yes, Nico Kuhn has been named as the one to watch this summer, but Arne Engels, he wants to follow by Nico Kuhn's example. And especially when they line up against Club Brugge tomorrow night. Now, will Arne Engels start the game with Nico Kuhn? That's the big question, because Brendan Rodgers has got a big choice to make, and he has played Paulo Bernardo over the last 2 seasons in important Champions League games. And I think when you look at it, Paulo Bernardo was brought in for the European scene. He is the captain of Portugal after all, and he is in goal scoring form for the Portuguese at under 21 level. He knows how to do it in Europe. This is why I think there might be a little surprise, and Arne Engels may be the player that gets dropped tomorrow night. Yes, that would be a shock. Would it be a shock? Tell me, right? Shock in the comments. Would it be a shock if Arne Engels was dropped for Paulo Bernardo? Everyone expects Callum McGregor to start as normal. I think everyone's expecting Rio Hatate to start due to his fine vein of form this season. Are you just going to chew that? Just make a wee noise down there. Be real, everyone. If we take McGinn for Celtic for a 3-year contract, it would be great on a free. Scotty Boy, it would be in 2 years' time. It wouldn't be right now. It would be 2 years' time. He'll be 32 years old then. He would be 32 years old. Do you think that he can come in? Think about it. In 2 years' time, you're still going to have Luke McCowan, who's going to be younger than him. right? You've got the possibility of Lennon Miller, who's going to be younger than him. You've got Paulo Bernardo, who's definitely going to be younger than him. And I still think that Paulo Bernardo will still be here in 2 years' time. Will Arne Engels be here in 2 years' time? There's a bit of dispute about that, because we spent 11 million on him, and you're wanting to cash in as much as possible on him. It depends on how he progresses. But there's 3 players in the midfield. 2 years' time, Callum McGregor will be coming towards the end of his sort of time as being a dominant player in the Celtic team. I think that you could have Luke McCowan, who's younger, coming in and forcing his way into that midfield if he's still at Celtic. I think he still will be at Celtic. And then, you could have Lennon Miller. So I don't know where people see the need to, in 2 years' time, to go and get McGinn when he's at the end of his career. People could go down the road and say, experience, but it's 2 years away. It's 2 years away. A lot could happen in 2 years. McGinn could break his leg next season, and then it's basically a career-ending thing. But anyway, we can talk about that nearer the time, but he has been talking about it. What about Scales and Trusty? Has he lost the confidence of Brendan Rodgers? No, I don't think so. I don't think that Scales has lost the confidence of Brendan Rodgers. What I think has happened, and Brendan Rodgers was asked the question by the one and only ex-Celtic defender Charlie Mulgrew. If you remember, Charlie Mulgrew turned around and asked Brendan Rodgers, why did you drop Liam Scales over Trusty? And he said there's only one reason, and it's pace. He likes his defenders to have pace. Trusty is faster at getting back. He runs faster, and that's as simple as that. And for big games, when you've got fast attacking, paced attackers, he likes to have his defenders that he knows that can get back there and get the pace to get back there. And Trusty has that, and that's the only reason that Trusty. And it's margins of error. It's minuscule margins of error for the manager picking Trusty over Scales. If Trusty had a complete nightmare the weekend against Hearts, you can guarantee that Scales will be back in the team. You can guarantee that Liam Scales will be back in the team. Not a doubt about that. And I think that the manager is just using the squad. I think Scales will come back into the flow at some point as the manager decides to rotate the squad. Because remember, he will rotate the squad. Will he drop Trusty for this Champions League game for Liam Scales? You never know, because he did speak about the fact that Trusty had that long trip back from America, as where Scales was only coming back from Ireland. So you don't know. There could be there's a few permutations of what can happen with the team tomorrow night, and I'm not even going to try and predict the team, because I think Brendan Rodgers, he's either going to go for what he sees as his strongest 11, which I think the only position that he really, really, really will be questioning will be the left back area. We know every other position that is a certain starter. Start for the front, you've got Kyogo. You've got Kuhn and Dyson Maeda coming in from the wing to supply Kyogo tomorrow night. Your midfield 3, you're going to go. The only one in midfield is, does he go with Paulo Bernardo over Arne Engels? Paulo Bernardo has that international experience at under 21 level. He's the captain's under 21 level, and he's doing fine. He's on goal scoring form. Is he slightly ahead of Arne Engels? Is Paulo Bernardo slightly ahead of Arne Engels? That's the only position in midfield that you're going to question. You've then got Callum McGregor, Rio Hatate. They're going to be your 2 starters all day long. When it comes to the back 4, you're going to have Cameron Carter-Vickers. You're going to have Alistair Johnson. You're going to have Greg Taylor. But what does it say long term if Greg Taylor's dropped? I think if Greg Taylor he could go and turn to Greg Taylor and say, I'm going to play you tonight, but I want you to sign this contract. Do you know, you've just seen Alistair Johnson sign a new contract. You've just seen Jamesy Forrest sign a new contract. If he has only got 6 months left in his contract, at this point last December, David Turnbull started getting left out of games, and he was on the bench. David Turnbull was getting dropped from he wasn't getting any game time at all. Brendan Rodgers knew that he was going to be leaving the club. You want to keep the player fit. You don't want him getting injured. As we get closer to December, Brendan Rodgers will be saying, we're going to have to sell you. Sorry. Simple as that. It's business. You know how football works. You know, Greg, you know how if you're not committing to the future of the club, you know what's going to happen. Get your agent. Your agent will be told that you to find you a new club. Brendan will probably not even have the talk with Greg. He'll probably have the talk. Greg, it's getting near that time. We need a yes or a no. I need to plan ahead for the future. It is simple as that. You know what football's all about. I need to plan the Celtic team. Is it a yes or is it no? So I can start thinking about past January. And that is it. And it's going to be a simple conversation like that. There's not going to be any malice in it. Greg will know it's all about football. Just the exact same with David Turnbull knew it was all going to be about football. You'll see Greg Taylor starting getting dropped to the bench. Alex Baye coming in. Alex Baye is a fantastic prospect. And he has some pace. And he also done it in the Champions League this season. He's also done it. So I think Alex Baye could come back in. And we spoke about this on the live last night. I said if Greg Taylor is leaving, you're not going to play Greg Taylor in the Champions League games because he's not going to be playing in the Champions League games in January, right? So you're going to play Alex Baye in the Champions League games because he's going to be here in January. You need a kind of settled team that knows how to play the European system and know the way that the team is going to play at European level. And for me, that'll be the big giveaway that Greg Taylor we all know he's leaving the club. I can't see him signing a contract. I cannot see Greg Taylor signing a contract at this late stage. If Greg Taylor signs a contract between now and December, it will be one of the biggest late deals of it will be the biggest turnaround ever at Celtic. I mean, it'll be the biggest turnaround ever at Celtic. I don't think it will happen. Personally, I don't think it will happen. But you never know. I'm saying that we've got 2 new members. Scotty Boy is a new member, and Scotty Boy also gifted a new membership. You're handing out members like sweeties, all these back in the 90s. Anyway, let's finish off that poll because it was a garbage poll we have anyway. We'll end the poll. We're on 58 votes, and it's at 60-40. 60-40 for Arne Engels, getting back to Arne Engels, he wants to emulate what Nico Kuhn has done at Celtic, and if the £11 million record signing for Celtic, he's got the one and only Mr. Paulo Bernardo screaming at Brendan Rodgers saying, come on Brendan, give a game in Portuguese, but it's going to be an interesting one to see who the manager does go with. And I think whoever the manager does go with, I think he's going to go with Callum McGregor, Rio Tati, Arne Engels, myself. But there's a sneaky little bit of feeling that just says Paulo Bernardo's knocking down Brendan's door. Brendan knows what Paulo can do at international level for the under-21s. He knows what he gives the team in Europe. He's seen him do it last season. He's seen him do it this season. It's a big decision for Brendan, and thank God he is the manager. But Arne Engels needs time. Arne Engels does need time, and I think there's a lot of pressure getting put on Arne Engels because he cost 11 million. If Arne Engels cost 2 million, 3 million, right? See if Arne Engels only cost 2 or 3 million, Celtic fans wouldn't be putting the pressure on Arne Engels saying, he disappears at a game, he's rubbish. He disappeared at the Belgium game. He's only a young lad, for goodness sake. So he is just a young lad. So I think that I'm not even going to try and predict the team, but I think that Brendan Rodgers will go with that midfield 3 of the tried and trusted that he went with at the weekend. Anyway, let's jump back into the comment section before we talk about what Alistair Johnston has been saying. Alistair Johnston's been speaking about Celtic Park on Champions League nights. We'll talk about that just in a second whilst we jump in see what everyone's saying in the comments section this morning. Yes, it's getting closer. It is getting closer. Big Rab Bean is. Look at it. Yeah, we're at 19,920 subscribers. I've got a funny feeling that will happen tomorrow night. at the rate that it's going. If not tomorrow night, it will happen the day after. I'm not putting too much pressure. I wanted it to happen in December. The fact that we're not even at December yet. It's the 26th of November. Build a bonfire, put the angels on the top. It's that season. But anyway, and I thank every single one of you for getting me to 19,920. That's mad. That's mad. It is mad. But anyway, it's all in a day's work, as they say, and this is what it is. It's a day's work. Alex Baye all day long says Alan Stevenson. He says Alex Baye over Greg Taylor. Big Rabbi says 20,000 and will tell Andy his age. Baz will tell Andy his age. Tell Andy who? Who's Andy? Everybody knows what age I am, don't they? I'm only 34. How old are you, Baz? Says Andy. How old am I? Oh, there's Andy asking what age I am. What age do I look? No filters on this, remember? No filters. Okay, Raj. Jim McClarty says McCarthy was probably the biggest waste of money at Celtic player. Whoever suggested signing him should have been sacked before he was even signed for us. He was on every treatment table in England. It was a weird one because Ange Postecoglou was looking for players to come in that knew Celtic and wanted, and that knew Celtic inside out, and had a link to Celtic, if you like. And James McCarthy ticked all those boxes, but he never ever got any game time under Ange. It was completely weird. Show the board what they missed. Back again, Baz just loves seeing the hoops. Baz has a bus pass now. Leave it at that. Do I? Put it this way, you need to work 15 years in Spain to get a pension, and I'll get a Spanish pension. There you go, right? So there you go. There's a wee insight for you all. So Andy, there you go. You need to work 15 years in Spain to be able to get a Spanish pension. I will be able to get a Spanish pension. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Celtic we trust. Talking about Trusty. The guy had the game for the Republic. That's why he was rested. Only 80 to go. I'm going to jump through something at bus pass age. Cheeky fuckers. I'm going to ban you. Big Rabbi, ban you. I cleared out the whole band list the other day. It was hilarious. Moved there in 1992. 19 years old. What? Moved where? Scotty boy. I moved here in 2020 during COVID lockdown. And to prove it, there's me at Celtic Park doing vlog type videos in March 2020, just before lockdown, on the 23rd of March or something, 20th of March lockdown. I'm guessing about age comes up here. I was 49 last week. There you go, Craig. I'm not far off you. Pension starts tomorrow. Quinn, you're getting banned. You're on the banned list. Right, anyway, let's talk about Make Some Noise for the Boys. Alistair Johnson has been talking about one thing that he sees from every opponent when he steps out onto the park at Celtic Park, and the music of the Champions League cries out. Whilst the Huns cry no surrender, where they do surrender, the Celtic Park turns into an absolute cauldron of noise when they drown out the Champions League music as the whole stadium erupts. The Green Brigade drop their banners, and we head on the pitch for war. Is Celtic Park back to being a cauldron? Alistair Johnson says 3 decades ago, Celtic had the jungle on Champions League night. He says the Canada Star says it is epic, absolutely epic at Celtic Park under the lights. With Club Bruges Cup come calling, Celtic can take a huge step forward to the qualification of the league phase of the Champions League. Alistair Johnson reckons there's nothing quite like Celtic Park on Champions League nights. Nothing in Europe comes even close to it. The 26-year-olds grew up watching the competition from afar and racing home from school to watch the games. He couldn't even tell who was playing on his old television back then. I'm joking, he's not that old. Anyway, it says when you walk out and you hear that anthem and you hear the noise for the fans, it's almost inhumane. It's animalistic. It says the scream when the Champions League anthem happens. He says it's like being in the jungle and the lion roars. Yes, the Lisbon Lions roar from the stand, and the Celtic fans stand up and make some noise for the boys. When Celtic are playing in Champions League, you want to be part of it. You want to be part of this atmosphere. Some of the best games I've ever saw at Celtic Park were on Champions League match nights. The atmosphere, you just can't give an emotion, you can't give a saying what it is. It just gives the players so much extra power when you hear that noise, and you look to the fear that is in the face of the opposing players as the opposing players look around the stadium trying to take in what they are witnessing at Celtic Park. Tomorrow night will be another one of those nights, and Alistair Johnston will sit there with his cheesy little grin going, yep, we got you. We got you, and he's going to plan to get some of the players in his back pocket. Now I'm a part of those matches, Alistair Johnston says. He says there's an understanding, there's a feeling, there's a tingle that just goes down your spine when you hear that noise. And then there's the goals. When we score a goal in the Champions League, the noise, the feeling, the emotion is absolutely incredible. Johnson, who has been tipped as being a future captain for Celtic, he says it's not about competing. It's not about just being involved. We are Celtic. We are on 7 points from 4 games with another 3 tomorrow night. It could all seal the playoff group stage of the Champions League for Celtic, and we will walk into the playoffs for the last 16 for the first time in years. Come on! Yes! Thank God the missus isn't there, eh? Oh, you moved to Chinatown, Kirkcaldy, in 1992. Ah, I was there in 94 when you went to Ibiza. God, Chinatown. Cracking bus, the Rafferty bus. Never forgot Resurrection. Ah, well, if totally off chat, Scott, if you went to Resurrection, you might have seen me on stage. That's all that I'm saying. You might have seen me on stage once, 2 or 3 times actually, at Resurrection. But then that was a long time ago, and a lifetime ago. I'm chilling today, potting about the house, going to get nervous for tomorrow. Big Des says, me, I am buzzing already because I have just got such a good feeling of total ecstasy. Craig says that he's calm. Mr. Quinn says if it's anything like the Hearts game, it'll be in the bag. Never forget Resurrection. Brilliant. Yep, those were the days. And it was even the comeback gig, the Resurrection, the 20 years later. Yeah, that was some gig. I never thought I'd go back just to end my career back where it started at Resurrection. That was something else. And if we do it and we make the last 16, I'm raising the Celtic flag from the top of my block. Oh, jeez. Anyway, says Shabin. Anyway, right, that's me done and dusted for this morning. Keep an eye out on the notifications. We might jump on a live later on this afternoon, since I've got lots of free. Big Dad's home. Baz is home alone with the dog. Yep, I'm home alone with the dog. All mayhem's going to let loose. In other words, I'm going to tidy the house. Always nervous for Champions League. Hopefully the real Celtic turn it on. And I think that this Celtic team know that they are in touch and distance of something that hasn't been achieved for a very long time. Callum McGregor will want to put his own stamp, his own authority, his own history on that Celtic armband. There's not many Celtic captains can say that they made it to the last 16 of the Champions League. Callum McGregor he will want to be one of those players that can turn around and says that he was captain of Celtic in the last 16 of the Champions League. On that note, have a fantastic day, everyone. As I say, keep an eye out for the lives. I might do one around about 4:30, 4 o'clock Celtic Park time. Does that sound fair enough? And we'll see what other news has came out. Oh, yes, we will, because there should be some Brendan Rodgers interviews out later on this afternoon before the Champions League games tomorrow. So yeah, we'll jump on a live once Brendan Rodgers has done that. The last res I was at was the event in 95. Oh my God, Craig. The event in 95 was the outdoor event, and we were on the main stage at that at 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock, I remember it well. Been a pleasure, Baz, it always is. And have a fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever time of night it is. Oh my God, 19,920 subscribers. Have a fantastic day to all the Celtic fans and all the other fans who tune in.